I hope all you lovely people enjoyed snack time. I enjoyed my cold Cheetos. Why not? So I'll be ready now to wrap up this module on moral dilemmas and dirty hands. So in the last video, we ended with a question. What should a leader do when faced with a moral dilemma? Make the utilitarian choice and promote the greater good? The greater good. Or follow absolute deontology and refuse to break any moral constraints? Well, go to page 168. 168, right at the top there. We see Walzer's answer. Here he starts by talking about a politician who will torture to protect society by saying, here is the moral politician. It is by their dirty hands that we know them. If they were a moral person and nothing else, their hands would not be dirty. If they were a politician and nothing else, they would pretend that their hands were clean. And so we're actually seeing in this passage a distinction between three types of leaders. It's very fascinating. We'll start. The first one I'll mention is the moral person he talks about. This is the person who keeps absolutist deontology, refuses to get their hands dirty, so they refuse to torture. But again, I've mentioned this. You refuse to torture, you allow millions to die. And so, yeah, you may be impeached. You may be put in prison because you've committed a crime against national security. They might call you a traitor for allowing those people to die. And so Walzer thinks this is pretty fascinating now and might be disturbing, and something I really hope you ponder is that Michael, like this is my friend here, Michael Walzer seems to think that moral person is not a true leader, Talk about controversial, right? Because we've already seen, in an earlier video, Michael Walzer thinks a leader's job is to promote the greater good. The greater good. Yeah. So Walzer says, if you are this absolutist who refuses to get their hands dirty, you are not a leader because you're not able to do the job that the job requires. The job is to promote everyone's interest. And as I've already mentioned a couple videos ago now, Walzer doesn't even think a truly moral person would never get elected. If you refuse to never violate a constraint, if you said, I'll never tell a lie, you will never get elected. And if you're somehow, you won't win the primary. If you somehow win the primary, you will not win the election. If you somehow win the election, you will not stay in power long. The career politicians will eat you for breakfast. Because again, Walzer really thinks that in order to keep and maintain power, you are absolutely going to have to get your hands dirty. And again, why? Because you're going to be dealing with some really bad people who are bad with a capital B. And if you want to stay, and not, because you don't want them in power. But a truly good person is of no use to us politically because they'll never get power and never keep it. Again, something to ponder and think, what does that mean? And wow, it's scary in some ways. So again, Walzer rejects the idea of being a moral person in this situation. He thinks you commit a crime against national security. You're a traitor when you could have stopped millions from dying, who you were sworn to protect as the leader. So the moral person's off the stage. So now we're going to look at what the politician, the actual politician will do. Not a person, a politician. And he does say a politician will absolutely commit that crime against morality. The politician will get their hands dirty. The politician will use torture. But the politician will do it for the greater good. The greater good. Again, the politician isn't a tyrant who tortures for their own personal benefit. No, what we're talking about here, the political leader, the politician will torture for the greater good. The greater good. And so the second type of person that Walzer considers is this, what he calls the mere politician who does commit that crime against morality. The mere politician gets their hands dirty, but the mere politician refuses to admit that their hands are actually dirty. The mere politician pretends, as Walzer says, as though their hands were clean, but they're not. And Walzer doesn't like that either. He says, committing the crime of torture a moral crime, but then you refuse to admit it, that suggests a problem here as well. Because at the very least, Walzer says, the mere politician is not taking the dilemma seriously. Remember, if you take the dilemma seriously, you recognize you committed a crime. You've done something. It's a crime against morality. Again, it's a crime that was done for the greater good, but still a crime. So the third type of person that Walzer considers is the moral politician, the moral politician. Now, again, the moral politician will torture, will commit the crime. I mean, that's interesting, right? The moral politician will commit the crime against morality by torturing, but the moral politician will be honest about that. Because the moral politician took the dilemma seriously. The moral politician knew they committed a crime against morality. But again, the moral politician also knows they did good, but they did good by doing that crime. They saved the lives, great, but they still had to do a crime of torture to do it. And so he says the moral politician, as he says, we will know the moral politician because the moral politician will show us their dirty hands. And so that's what Michael Walzer is doing with this example of torture, that yes, the moral politician will commit the crimes against morality. That is, the moral politician will break those constraints and they will do forbidden actions. But these crimes against morality, again, they're still done they're to save lives, to promote security. They are done for the greater good. Now, if you go to page 178, scroll again all the way to the bottom of page 178. Here you can see a little bit more about what Walzer says about this moral politician. They violate a set of rules, go beyond a moral or legal limit in order to do what they believe they should do. That's the utilitarian good. At the same time, they acknowledge their responsibility for the violation by accepting punishment or doing penance. So here we can really see the crucial idea, the crucial difference between the mere politician and the moral politician. Because now the mere politician hides the crime. The mere politician refuses to take responsibility. The mere politician refuses to do penance. The mere politician refuses to show us and admit they have dirty hands. They pretend as if they are clean. Meanwhile, the moral politician does not hide the crime. The moral politician takes responsibility. The moral politician will do penance because the moral politician does show us their dirty hands. And then the moral politician will also explain why they did it, that this was for the greater good. But why? Why does a moral politician own up to this? Why is this something a moral politician must do? Why should a moral politician do these things? This goes back to a point that I told you to write down in your notebook that is so important, according to Walzer, is that remember, a political leader acts in our name for us. So if our leader engages in torture, we have to know about it. Because we have to know it happened, why it happened, because this was done in our name. It was done for us. And so if this is being done, again, remember I said the political leader is our representative. And if a person who represents me tortures, that's basically me torturing, right? You get the sign of sense here? It's like if they're representing me in this, they're doing this for me. They're doing it because they think I want this to happen. That's what it means to act in my name and to act for us, right? And so that's what the moral politician knows. The moral politician knows they're doing this in our name for us. And so it's the moral politician has to show us what they did, justify it. That's fine. Say it was for national security, but they have to tell us because we have to decide, do we want our leaders to torture others in our name? Do we want, in this case, the one that I gave in the last video, do we want them to kill a woman and torture the terrorists' children in our name to save those millions of lives? Because all that's done in our name for us. And so we should get to decide for ourselves, is that what we wanted? The leader says, I did this. Here are my dirty hands. It's a crime against morality. I know it. But was it worth it? You the people, right, to get to decide that, because I did it for you. I didn't do it for myself. In fact, I'm tortured and I hate myself for having had to do all that. Watch Samuel L. Jackson. He hates himself for having to do all this. But you can also tell he thinks it's ultimately the right thing because it's going to save all those lives. But again, it's for us to decide, do we forgive the leader for the crime against, morality? Or do we demand punishment and penance for that crime? Again, we get to decide. The leader does not get to make that judgment, right? That's what the mere politician does. The mere politician hides it because the mere politician doesn't want to take responsibility. But a true, moral politician owns it because they know they did it for us. But ultimately, if it's done for us, then we have to, we get to decide if that's what we want. And so finally, at the very, very end of the paper, it kind of ties back to something I said also earlier. Michael Walzer does mention one last reason about why, we want moral politicians. We want the people who will show us their dirty hands, and we do not want the mere politicians who hide it from us. Because as we've seen now repeatedly, mere politicians do not take the dilemma seriously. Mere politicians want to hide their crimes from us. So why should we trust them? They're hiding stuff from us. Why should we trust that they're going to choose correctly for us? Choose correctly in my name, not in my name. Right? I want to know why, but I can't make that decision. The mere politician hides that from us. The mere politician makes that decision for me and doesn't let me offer a little bit of feedback on whether I approve of that or not. But the moral politician, we trust. Because the moral politician takes the dilemma seriously, because the moral politician knows they did a crime, knows their hands are dirty, and the moral politician isn't hiding anything, shows us. And yeah, we'll trust that. That creates trust, that we can trust the moral politician, because we know that the moral politician is, if they do something like that, we also know they will take responsibility for that by letting us decide if we forgive or if we don't, that they went too far. And that's why we trust them. We trust the moral politician. That's why he says at the very end, it's a very little fun little thing where he says, we trust the honest politician who has to be dishonest because they'll tell us what they did and let us decide if it was worth it or not. I don't know if that's hopeful or if that's very sad and terrifying, but it's certainly interesting. But in any case, I think you've earned, more arm flab going away. Get rid of the arm flab. Woo-hoo. You're almost done with another module. Very, very good. God, you guys are rock stars. I wish we could have like a pizza party or not get COVID or whatever. But half of you might not even be in the country. Some of you I know are scattered across the globe. I wish we could have maybe someday we can all get vaccinated and have like a reunion party where we can actually see that there were real people here. Wouldn't that be cool? What was I talking about? Take the module quiz. Do some tweeting. Don't forget, we do have that unit exam. I hope you save some time for that. That's due this weekend. But hey, keep working hard. You guys are working really hard. I can tell. I pay attention. I see what's going on Twitter. Even if I don't talk, I am watching, and I know you guys are really trying. And your exams, I can tell you're really trying. I really do appreciate that. I just want to let you guys know that. So just keep doing that. Keep working hard. And of course, when you're ready finally to go into Unit 5, wow, Unit 5. Once you're ready, you know where to find me. But until then, hey, take care. Stay safe.